Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper, and in this video today,
we're going to show you how to build a custom aquaponics.
So let's take a look at it now. Now when it comes to the framework that you're going to need for your aquaponics shelf setup, what I've done is tried my best to make as hard a foundation as possible. You can take 2x4s. I took something that was recycled pallets, long industrial pallets, and recycled it so it's a little thicker than 2x4. But what you do is you'll make you a 2x4 frame. For my Shelfponics system, I ended up, the overall length of this is right at 100 inches. And I'll show you here in a little while why I gave myself so much space in between. And the width for those shelves, since those plastic shelves that I showed you earlier are right at about 14 inches, I ran mine 15 inches to give me about a ½ inch clearance on each side, because that will give me some play to adjust my shelves out for my larger drain pipe that's going to return to the fish containment unit here in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit in the PVC pipe, and I'll come back and show you how that I've got it together, and then we'll go to mounting the shelves on top of that. Okay, now we've mounted the drain for our aquaponics. Now I'm going to go over the measurements with this, so don't worry about that. Here's what goes on. Is as far as measuring goes, is you want to make sure that the end has a cap on it so that you don't drain out onto your porch or wherever your work area is. But as far as the measuring process is, you're going to take, this is the bottom of the rack. So what I've done is I've measured over where that I'm on a Dremel here very shortly. There's a line that runs through crease right here, and then a line that comes over, makes a cross section. What I've done is match that up, so all you really have to do is eyeball this, and I've gave enough gap in between the other ones that I have some play to give me room for the other racks. So when I set that down here in a minute, I'm going to have a coupling piece and a piece of 1-inch pipe that comes down to this 1½ inch. So what ends up being is when I'll come and set these trays on, that right there, that pipe will come down into this and just hook, and it don't glue, it's just loose. So if I ever need to maintenance these trays or pull this out, I can. And the water will return through this pipe right here back out to our containment unit. Now, one other note I'll make, and I haven't set in the containment unit for the fish yet, so we'll adjust the piping here later with that part. But right here, this coupling is coming up nicely with this piece of wood brace that I've got right here. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because that little slight elevation is going to cause the water to drain very nicely down this way out to the water containment for the fish. And I've took metal banding, as I did with the rain catchment, and banded this up, and I didn't tighten it so tight that I couldn't adjust it out. That's one thing about this build, is I'm trying to make everything adjustable so that you can replace pieces if you need to. You can add on later on, do whatever you need to, because the time will come whenever you can't go get parts, so you need to have this stuff ready. Like I have piping for the brace supports right here. And now I'm going to have John set this up here, and we're going to get a look at how this would be set up. He's going to set one of these trays that is fully assembled, and you can get an idea of how the drain process will work. Is the water will come up and hit the top of these trays. Thank you, sir. And it will drain down, then drain down, and then go down to our return. And this will do likewise on all these other trays, and of course this one I'm using for measurement, we'll have it fully assembled later. And we'll come back and review this here in a little while, where that you can see the drops, and you can also see the hook into the drain, and then we'll move to the plumbing section for actually getting the water to the trays to run down after that. Okay, now guys, I'm using a Dremel tool just like I did on the rain catch video. As you can see right here, I took the adapter and threaded it into the bottom of this. Now that's going to receive the PVC pipe that will go back to the drain. And now what we'll do is we'll do this through each of the shelves so that it can drain back into the shelf below. And right now we've got this inverted, so you just got to remember to swap your pattern. You go to drain back to the tank, so then it'll be plug here and then a plug here. You always swap back and forth, okay? That way it runs all the way through your trays. So I'll continue to do this. We'll get all these done, and then I'll show you one of these shelves fitted back onto the drain itself. Now we can see at this point that I've mounted one of the shelves above where the drain is. And now I can guesstimate where that is going to drain down about, I'm going to say about 2 3/4 of an inch should do it. And what that'll do is that'll give some play in this so that if I needed to pull this tray up, I've left enough room on the side in between these trays that I can just pull this up, maintenance it. Maybe I've cracked a tray or something and I might need to replace it, or one of these pipes get bent or something. You know, I can easily maintenance this unit, put it right back, and get it back into action. So now what I'll do is I'll cut that piece and fit that back in so you can see that. We'll attach this to the backing here of the railing, and I'll also mount the drain into this right here so we can see all this fitted together, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now I'm going to begin a recap. We can see here where the trays are mounted on the frame and they're suspended into the drain. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this now from an upper level. I'm going to take it from a unassembled one to a almost finished one to a finished one so you can see the whole process fully. Is we take a 3/4 inch to 1 inch plug that's threaded, and you will Dremel out. Of course, you'll just mark off around it with a Sharpie and Dremel that out. Then you'll thread that up through that with the PVC glue around it, and then it'll become permanent into place. You'll do this with each tray, you know, opposite though. You'll go this for the drain, then the next tray up to this side, then the top tray up to this side. You always alternate, as I said earlier. You'll take metal banding and secure this to your back brace. Then, moving to the next process, you'll take your PVC pipe that's 1 inch and you'll place it up into the plugs that you've put into place. So now we have it from the top. The water will be distributed here. It will drain here. Then it will go in that plug and drain here. Now, the final process, as you can see right here, is I've cut with a Dremel so that this can have good access to drain. Now, what I'll also do with the Dremel here shortly is I will cut a trail so that the water can go. So as the water feeds here, it will go through a process of working its way through all the plants and then drain out here. So there'll be notches cut through these openings here, not into this so that it will damage the bottom tray, but just into these recessed notches here. And that pretty much concludes the portion of needing to put the plumbing in as far as the drain through the trays and into your return back to your aquaponics to the hold tank. So now we'll fabricate the rest of these trays out, and then we'll move to the holding tank and the plumbing from the pump up to the top of these trays.
To begin our tub installation, we drill 2 holes with this. And this one top goes into there, and there's one, if you can walk around here and see, you go down here and it comes right here and goes down to that slot.
Very good, John. That's excellent. And as Jonathan was saying, these drains will let the water that we're putting in this tub, now I've got the part number for this tub in the video description. It's kind of raining on us at the moment, so we're having to cover some of our fittings and stuff, and I'll show you in just a moment. The water will fill up in this tub, and instead of running over onto our work area, it will go out this drain. And what we have done is Dremeled out, and if you see, we ran the plug all the way through, and instead of threading the thing. Now what I'll do is if I ever want to fill this all the way up and not let it drain, I'll just put a cap over that threaded area. And I screwed it through and glued over this so that it's into this very, very thick hard plastic tub, and that pipe will run out the back right here, as Jonathan was saying. Now what we done on the bottom is we removed a drain plug and we fit a 1 1/4 inch fitting into that in place of the plug, down to a 1 inch piece of PVC pipe, into a 1 inch ball valve, down to a 1 inch elbow, and that will go down the other drop as Jonathan was demonstrating. And now we'll mount the tub in place and take a look at it.
Now we have installed the tub. We got it where it can go out, and we got it over there. We're gonna have it mounted there, and some bounding around there, like up there.
And that banding will hold this so that it doesn't shift out of our drains that me and Jonathan's installed for the tub. Now from here we can refill this unit from our rain catch that we built in a previous video. And also Jonathan's going to get this piece right now and show you how to put the drop from our drain that we've installed previously. And the reason that we haven't glued that is that way if we ever need to run a ramrod down through there to clean out the drain on the bottom, we can, and we can easily pull that off to clean it and access it. Now this portion here that is to the elbow is actually glued though. And that water will return now to our fish, and at this point we will do our pump installation.
Here's the pump we got from Innovative Hydroponics Supply. Here's the fittings that came with it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dad.
Okay, thank you, John. Now, the fittings that we went through, me and John looked them over, and the one that was the best for our needs, we went with a 1/2 inch, and we got that tubing appropriate for that because we made sure that our drains are 1 inch pipes, so that way we're not putting more water than we can drain out. So this is only pumping half the amount of piping that we'll be able to drain down, so that's good. We can get plenty of drainage off of it. This particular pump is a 396 gallon an hour pump. If you look right here, the particular models, and you can find out more at their website. You can check the link that I put right here in just a moment coming up. But for this particular model, the 396, it's 120 volts, and the amperage, it don't even draw a whole amp, and it can put out per hour 396 gallons. So we're talking a lot of water can cycle through. So I could practically run all the water out of my fish tank in an hour's time. I could practically deplete it and put it back into the fish 4 times over, or well, almost 4 times, I'm sorry. So I mean that pump right there can move quite a bit. But now one thing to keep in mind is where that we are pumping that water up real high, the maximum height that these particular units can pump up to, you need to make sure you get the appropriate one, because right here, our 396 unit, as you come across here, you can see it comes up to 6.5 foot. Well, our work table space is only like 5.5 foot, so we have an extra foot, that it can go up in the air that will let the water trickle down to the trays. So now we'll go out and install the pump into the tub.
Here I'm going to install the pump.
Okay, very good job, John. Now we're going to take the cord and we will run it in behind our system, and we will hook that in with the air system that's going to be pumping the air in to our stones. We'll install one stone behind the pump, and we'll install one stone over here, and that way there's plenty of air back and forth within this tub unit, because it's 100 gallon, and we want to make sure to get plenty of air and oxygen to them. And then as the water returns here, it can fill the unit back up, and fish waste will be down at the bottom, so it'll get pumped through the pump, back up to the top, and back through to our plants. So we'll go from here to the air installation, and then we'll move back to our growing trays. Okay, now the final components that you will need to finish out this aquaponics project is you'll need your cord for your outdoor power. I've got a 40-foot cord, so this will easily reach inside to my solar backup power, so I can run this off of that, or I can just run it inside the door and run it off my house power from the utility company. Next, you'll need an aerator pump. We already have this one laying around. It's got 2 outlets. I've got 2 large air stones I got from Top Fin, and then I got this tubing at Walmart, 25 foot of it's like $2. And then at the hydroponics supply, I got this controller. It is a 24-hour programmable timer. I will show you how to install this here just shortly. But really all you do is you set the time zone, or whatever time zone you're in, whatever time it is, say it's 10 o'clock at night. Well, you'd set that to 10 o'clock, alright, and make sure you get your AMs and PMs correct. So you'd set it to that time. Then these little notches on the side, you will push these notches down, which you really can't see that good right now, but you push each one, and that's like 15-minute increments, and then that'll run the water on or off. It'll let the power come through or not. Pretty nifty, pretty inexpensive. Now you'll need a splitter that's outside. Make sure it's grounded, alright, outlet, and 2 or 3 is good. I mean, you might want to run an extra aerator or pump, but this one's made by Philips, and it is for outdoor use. Make sure it is for outdoor use. You don't want to cause electrical fire, burn your house down. and one of these slots will run the pump, one will run the aerator. It will be tucked up and under my porch area so that it would be protected from the rain pouring down on it. And that's pretty much got the last components that's going to need to be got together for this project. And now I'm going to go back over here. We're going to install the pump. I'll show you the tubing, how it's all put together, and then I'll run the wire for the power, and then I'll give you a look at it, how it set up whenever we're done with that. Now I'm about to plug this timer in, and what you do is you'll just push down the pins on this as appropriate per 15-minute marks. And what I'm doing now is I'm pushing that to where that I want it for the set hours, or in between, however many times I want that to do. And so I set the dial on this particular timer, you know, your timer may vary, to what time it is right now. And so whenever those times click around, the rest of the day, that will power on my pump and will water our plants and vegetables. Okay, now to keep in mind where I've got this plugged in right now, I just want to make one last note on this. Another thing about these timers is some of them you might actually have to push it down for it to kick on. Now, the rest of the timers might be that you leave these pins up when you want it to run and you push it down when you don't want it to work. So one thing that you have to tweak on that and make sure that you set it appropriately. Okay, so now here is the unit running with all the tubing installed properly in place. The air lines are in and the stones are going. Now what I done is I mounted my 3-way plug onto the wood and protected here. And of course I'm going to build plastic protector over this later, and then I've ran that down, and that will go down under the porch over into the house where I've showed the timer. And now the other thing is the air pump. We've got it mounted and zip tied and everything, and that's all neatly tucked up and under there, and that is running the air line. And so that's the air and the water pump installed electrical permanent. Now you can see here where the tubing, I've got the unit running. You come up the side of the pipe work here, up the shelves, and you're going to run out from the shelves here. Now I've got this one tied off for the minute because that I haven't filled in this tray area, but once it's done it'll run also. And you just keep your tubing neat together so that it runs equal. See, we can see this one right here running equal, and we come on out here and this one's running likewise. And that way your tubing hasn't got a lot of sway or swag in it. And I'll clip off the zippy ties and make them neat, but you want to make sure that your water is running equal into the trays. Now the only note I would make on this tubing right here is I have it coming into a Y and then into another Y right here for this close rack. Now depending on how many racks you make, you'll have to work out your plumbing appropriately, but now you could get a 3-way valve for this, or a 3-way fitting. They didn't particularly have one in stock the day that I went and got the pieces, so I just kind of done this for the moment. I'll probably put a 3-way T into this later. But you just want to make sure that your plumbing is equal. That's the main thing, is that the water is going to be divided out equal. So what I've done is make the water work through all this fitting work to this first tray. Since it's so close, that will make the water equalize out, and I tested a minute ago and it worked out. So just make sure that your fittings and the way that you run your water is equalized. That's the main important thing as far as the water running on your line.
Okay, we cut our slots in the cups, and as you can see on all the other ones, we already have it done. Now here's what you do. We put it here so the clay pebbles can't get in once we put it in, and then you put your plants in.
Now, John has just put this cup up here to stop the clay from getting past, but also we just Dremel this so there's still some little plastic floating by. So for the moment, we're going to raise that up and we're flushing it out of our system down this flush tube. But as he said right there, once that's done, we'll put that back, and then what the end result will be is the clay around it, just like this right here. Now I've got this unit running and I want to make a few notes. As you can see right here, the water line, I've been letting this run for about 10-12 minutes, and the water line is about halfway up in the container. But you see something? There's no plants. Now, with this container, I have the plants in it, and it's up about 3/4 of the way with about 12 minutes running. And the thing about that is you need to keep in mind is right here, I've not dremeled this one out yet, okay? Well, if you look, I'll show you an example right here. You can see where I've dremeled out the portion of the threaded area, and it's letting water run by down into it and go down. Now the thing about that is if you don't dremel that out, it'll cause the water level to rise even higher because it's trying to get up above that PVC pipe fitting and go down. So I kind of made something along the lines of a bell siphon, I guess you could say, but instead I just cut grooves in the pipe fitting, and that let a cavity be there for the water to run by quicker. Brian stopped in to help us with this project, and what he's doing is putting some netting around the inside, and that will stop any of the pebbles from washing out in case there's a hard downpour of rain. And also if we're maintaining the pots and plants that are in the system, like these that we already have in already, that will stop those pebbles from falling out while we're digging it back to put the plants in, like so. Okay, now here is some strawberries that are coming along, and right here we can see on this one about to have some berries ready to eat. Now these plants, we've experimented with them. We've put some in with some soil compound around it and then put clay pebble on it, and then over here we have some that's strictly clay. So I mean, you know, you'll have to just experiment with this. The netting that Brian came by and helped us put up has helped hold the clay pebbles in good and the wind and stuff not knock them out. A last note on the whole system period is we're going to put goldfish in here and koi. I don't know the exact number yet. We're going to let the system run for a little while, and I'll do an update video on this later. But this is a 100-gallon tank, so we'll probably get a bunch of goldfish and put in here. I don't know the exact number. It's just one of those things. This is all an experiment. I don't want to get a bunch and them die on me. I want to take a few at a time, get everything good to go, and make sure they're putting good nitrogen out and stuff. So that pretty much concludes any of the extra notes I wanted to make. The very last thing I just want to say is whenever you are cutting out your drains, I haven't filled this one the rest of the way with clay yet. We worked with this one some, but is whenever you cut your drains out, you can leave the piping, up. You don't have to router it out all the way like I done. You can let the water fill up and go over it, and you can just cut a little tiny groove here and there around it to let the water eventually drain out and kind of siphon itself out. So that's kind of up to you. Either way works. Here's the tray right now, and it's filled up very well. So I mean, it's up to you. You can leave it or you can cut it out. But that's pretty much all the final notes that you really need to take in on this project.
So we hope this has been a help to you.
And until we see you again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, we hope you have a most blessed day.
In
Yahushua name.